You can feel it, something is being decided. Not in the loud, obvious ways the world usually announces change, but in the quiet spaces where hearts wrestle, where thoughts return again and again to the same name. And you're right to feel this way. At this very moment, someone is thinking about you. They may not be speaking. They may not be reaching out. But inwardly, they are reflecting, weighing their heart, measuring truth against fear. And God wants you to know this: you are not alone in this waiting. What is happening right now goes far beyond what your eyes can see. Behind the scenes, beyond messages, distance, silence, and unanswered questions, there is movement in the spiritual realm. Decisions are forming, alignments are shifting, hearts are being softened, and what God is doing in secret may soon change everything you thought was fixed. Waiting has a way of making the soul restless. It invites questions you never wanted to ask. It makes you replay conversations, analyze every sign, and wonder if the silence means rejection, disinterest, or loss. But the truth is often very different from what anxiety whispers. Silence, in God's economy, is rarely empty. More often, it is full of preparation, conviction, and divine timing. While this person seeks clarity, God is working, quietly, intentionally, not just in their heart, but in yours as well. God never moves only one side of a story. When He prepares a decision, He prepares everyone involved. He shapes thoughts, reveals truths, removes illusions, and rearranges priorities. And sometimes, the greatest evidence that God is at work is that everything feels still on the surface. You may feel like you are being asked to wait without explanation. Like you're standing at the edge of something important, unable to see whether it will open or close. That uncertainty can feel heavy. But God sees the whole picture, not just the moment you're standing in. He knows why the timing matters. He knows what would break if things moved too soon. And He knows what needs to be healed before the next step can be taken. There are seasons when God allows silence not to punish you, but to protect you. To protect your heart from rushing into something unready. To protect another person from making a decision based on fear, pressure, or confusion. And to protect the future from foundations that haven't yet been strengthened. The decision that has been causing you anxiety is already being touched by divine hands. That doesn't mean it will unfold exactly the way you expect, but it does mean it will unfold with purpose. God does not waste waiting. He uses it to strip away false attachments, to reveal what is truly important, and to anchor you deeper in trust rather than control. You might be tempted to think, if they cared, they would speak. If they knew, they would act. But hearts do not always move as quickly as minds wish they would. Some people need silence to hear God clearly. Some need distance to recognize what truly matters. And some need time to confront fears they've been avoiding for years. God is not absent from their confusion. He is present in it. He is stirring questions they cannot ignore. He is placing your presence in their thoughts, not as torment, but as a mirror, reflecting what is unresolved, what is meaningful, and what must be faced honestly. At the same time, God is working in you. The waiting is revealing parts of your heart you may not have noticed before. Your desire for certainty, your fear of being forgotten, your longing to be chosen openly and without hesitation. These are not weaknesses, they are invitations. Invitations to bring those needs to God rather than letting them control you. There is a deep transformation that happens when you choose to trust God. In the unseen, when you resist the urge to force answers, to demand timelines, or to read meaning into every silence. Trust does not mean pretending the waiting doesn't hurt. It means believing that God is active even when you cannot trace His hand. What's happening right now is not stagnation, it's alignment. God aligns hearts before He aligns circumstances. He aligns intentions before actions. And He aligns character before connection. If things moved before alignment was complete, the outcome would not sustain what God intends to build. You may wonder why God would allow someone to hesitate if the connection is real. But hesitation does not always mean doubt about you. Sometimes it means someone is confronting the weight of responsibility that comes with choosing rightly. Especially when God is involved, decisions carry eternal significance. And God takes that seriously, even when it tests your patience. Their silence is not rejection, it is preparation. Preparation to choose with clarity rather than impulse. Preparation to step forward without divided motives. Preparation to meet you not from confusion, but from conviction. And preparation to align with God's will rather than their comfort. God knows how deeply silence can hurt. He knows how quickly the mind fills in the gaps with fear. That is why He is reminding you now, you are seen. You are held, and you are not waiting alone. Heaven is active even when the earth feels quiet. There are things God is removing right now, misunderstandings, false expectations, and emotional clutter that would only complicate what comes next. There are lessons being learned that could not be taught in motion. And there is a clarity forming that will make the eventual decision far more solid than if it were rushed. Sometimes, God delays answers because the answer itself is becoming more valuable with time. A decision made after prayer, reflection, and inner wrestling carries a different weight than one made quickly. It carries depth, integrity, and endurance. You may feel tempted to withdraw, to protect your heart by assuming the worst. But God invites you to remain open without becoming anxious, to stay receptive without becoming dependent, to wait with hope rather than fear. This balance is part of the preparation God is doing in you. What is meant for you will not pass you by because of silence. What is aligned with God's will does not disappear because of delay. And what God is orchestrating cannot be undone by temporary uncertainty. There will come a moment when what has been hidden begins to surface. When clarity replaces confusion, when silence gives way to truth, and when you realize that the waiting was not wasted, it was shaping you into someone who could receive what comes next without losing yourself. Until then, rest in this: God is closer than you think. He is working more deeply than you can see, and the decision unfolding right now is not happening without purpose, care, and divine involvement. You are not forgotten in this pause. You are being prepared, and when the time comes, you will understand why it could only happen this way. There are moments when the heart grows tired of waiting, not because faith is gone, but because hope has been stretched thin. In those moments, God does something very gentle and very powerful. He invites you to stop looking outward for signs and begin listening inward for assurance. This is where real peace is formed, not from answers arriving, but from trust deepening. You may not realize it yet, but the waiting is sharpening your discernment. You are learning the difference between emotional urgency and spiritual readiness. You are learning how to sit with uncertainty without letting it define your worth. And you are discovering that your life is not on hold simply because one decision has not yet been revealed. God never places your entire destiny in the hands of another human being. Even when someone else's choice matters, God remains sovereign over the outcome. What He has written for you does not depend on someone else's confusion. It moves through it, shapes it, and ultimately transcends it. Right now, you are being asked to release the need to know what they are thinking and instead trust what God is doing. There are conversations happening in the spiritual realm that you cannot hear. Prayers being answered in ways that look like delay. Convictions forming slowly, because they are meant to last. You might sense waves of emotion coming and going, hope one moment, doubt the next. This does not mean you lack faith. It means you are human. God is not threatened by your questions or your tiredness. He meets you there, quietly reminding you that He is steady even when your emotions are not. Behind the silence, something important is being confronted. Fears of vulnerability, fear of change, fear of responsibility, fear of choosing wrong. These fears are not resolved overnight, especially when the decision carries meaning. God allows the process because a healed hesitation is far better than a rushed commitment. At the same time, God is strengthening your inner foundation. He is teaching you how to stand without leaning too heavily on external validation. He is reminding you that your value is not determined by someone else's readiness. And He is preparing you to receive clarity without losing peace. There is a reason God often works quietly. Loud movements attract interference. Quiet movements invite trust. What God is building right now requires depth, not spectacle. It requires roots, not applause. And it requires patience that can only be developed through waiting. You may notice that during this season, certain distractions are falling away. Things that once filled your time no longer satisfy you. Conversations feel shallower. Noise feels heavier. This is not accidental. God is simplifying your inner world so that when clarity comes, you will recognize it immediately. Sometimes, the silence is not about the other person at all. It is about you learning how to hear God's voice without leaning on human reassurance. It is about learning how to rest without guarantees. And it is about trusting that God's timing is not late, even when it feels slow. The truth is, if God revealed everything at once, it would overwhelm you. You would rush ahead without the strength needed to sustain what you're asking for. So God reveals things in layers: first peace, then understanding, then action. This is a season of unseen faithfulness. No applause, no confirmation, just quiet obedience, just choosing not to spiral. Just choosing to believe that God is still good even when the outcome is unclear. What you are experiencing now is not abandonment, it is intimacy. God is drawing you closer by removing distractions, by slowing the pace, by forcing you to rely on Him rather than outcomes. This kind of closeness changes you permanently. You may feel moments of loneliness, but you are not alone. God is closer in the waiting than He is in the fulfillment. When answers come, we often move on quickly. But in the waiting, we linger with Him. And that lingering produces a depth of relationship that cannot be rushed. There is also a protection happening that you cannot yet see. God is preventing misunderstandings, avoiding premature steps, and shielding both hearts from unnecessary pain. What feels like delay now may be the very thing that saves you later. When the decision finally comes, whatever form it takes, it will arrive with a sense of clarity rather than chaos. It will feel grounded rather than forced. And you will recognize that the peace you developed during the waiting is what allows you to receive the outcome with grace. Even if the result surprises you, you will not be shaken the way you might have been before. Because God has been strengthening you quietly, teaching you how to trust without control, teaching you how to hope without attachment, teaching you how to love without losing yourself. Right now, you are being prepared not just for a decision, but for a new level of emotional and spiritual maturity. One where you no longer chase certainty, but walk confidently even when the path is still unfolding. There is a freedom forming in you. Freedom from needing constant reassurance. Freedom from interpreting silence as rejection. Freedom from letting anxiety dictate your worth. This freedom is one of the greatest gifts God gives in seasons like this. You may look back one day and realize that this was the moment you learned how to be still without becoming numb. How to wait without becoming bitter. And how to trust without becoming passive. God is not asking you to do nothing. He is asking you to remain open, grounded, and faithful in the small things. To continue showing up for your life. To keep loving well. To keep choosing integrity even when no one is watching. The waiting is not a pause, it is a passage. A crossing from who you were into who you are becoming. And crossings are rarely comfortable. But they are always purposeful. Whatever unfolds next will not come to destroy the peace you are learning now, it will build upon it. That is how you will know it is from God. It will not demand that you abandon yourself to receive it. Until that moment comes, breathe. Rest. Release the timeline. Trust the process you cannot yet explain. And remember this above all: God has not forgotten you, delayed you, or overlooked you. He is doing something precise. Something intentional. Something that required this very season of silence to become possible. And when clarity arrives, you will see that every quiet moment, every unanswered question, and every act of trust was shaping a future that could only be formed this way. There will be moments in this season when you feel the urge to rush ahead, to do something, anything, just to escape the discomfort of not knowing. That impulse is natural. The human heart was never designed to live comfortably with uncertainty. Yet this is precisely where God is inviting you to grow. Not by forcing outcomes, but by learning how to remain steady when outcomes are not yet visible. What you are experiencing is a deep recalibration of trust. God is teaching you to trust Him without needing constant proof. To believe that He is moving even when nothing around you appears to change. This kind of trust is not loud. It does not announce itself with confidence or certainty. It is quiet, resilient, and anchored far below the surface. You may notice that you are becoming more aware of your inner dialogue. The thoughts that try to convince you that waiting means losing. The fears that whisper that if something were meant for you, it would already be yours. God is not angry at these thoughts, but He is gently teaching you not to obey them. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. There is a sacred tension in waiting. On one hand, you hope. On the other, you surrender. Hope without surrender becomes anxiety. Surrender without hope becomes resignation. God is teaching you how to hold both at the same time. To hope deeply while releasing control completely. This balance is rare, and it is powerful. Behind the scenes, God is also rearranging circumstances you may never know about. Conversations you are not part of. Moments of realization that happen unexpectedly. Delays that prevent wrong timing. Alignments that would not have been possible earlier. What looks like stillness from your perspective is often complexity from heavens. You might wonder why God does not simply give you a clear sign, something unmistakable that removes all doubt. But clarity that comes too early can rob you of strength. God is not only interested in answering your question, He is interested in shaping who you become while you wait for the answer. In this season, you are learning how to sit with yourself honestly. without distractions, without illusions, without the reassurance of immediate affirmation. This kind of self-awareness can feel uncomfortable, even painful. But it is also where healing happens. God often uses waiting to bring unresolved wounds to the surface, not to overwhelm you, but to finally heal them. Perhaps you are becoming aware of patterns in your past, how quickly you attach, how deeply silence affects you, how much you long to feel chosen without hesitation. These realizations are not meant to shame you. They are meant to free you. God heals what you are willing to see. There is also a refining of your desires taking place. What you thought you wanted may be deepening into something more honest. Less about validation, less about urgency, more about alignment, more about peace, more about something that can endure. Sometimes God allows us to desire something deeply, not so that we cling to it, but so that we learn how to desire without idolizing. To want without losing ourselves. To hope without collapsing if the outcome differs from expectation. You may feel moments of grief for the version of certainty you once had. Or the timeline you imagined. Or the simplicity of believing that things would unfold quickly if they were meant to. Let yourself grieve that gently. Growth often requires letting go of old assumptions. God is not asking you to pretend that waiting is easy. He is asking you to remain honest without becoming hopeless. To bring your frustration to Him rather than letting it harden into despair. He listens differently in seasons like this, more intimately, more patiently. There is a tenderness to how God handles hearts that are waiting. He does not rush them. He does not pressure them. He understands how fragile hope can feel when it has been stretched. And He guards it carefully, even when you fear it is slipping away. You may notice that your prayers are changing. Less about asking God to make something happen, and more about asking Him to help you remain grounded. Less about outcomes, and more about peace. This shift is not a loss of faith, it is a deepening of it. Faith that depends on outcomes is fragile. Faith that rests in God's character is resilient. And God is teaching you the difference. There may be moments when you question whether you should keep believing at all. Whether it would be easier to emotionally disconnect and move on. God does not force you to stay. But He gently reminds you that disengaging from hope often disconnects you from joy as well. Instead, He invites you to hope differently. Not with clenched fists, but with open hands. Not with expectations carved in stone, but with trust written in humility. You are also learning that your life is not waiting to begin. Even in this in-between space, God is present. Growth is happening. Healing is unfolding. Wisdom is being formed. You are not stuck. You are becoming. This season may be teaching you how to be present rather than preoccupied. To live fully where you are rather than mentally existing in the future. Presence is one of the most overlooked forms of peace. The more you learn to live fully now, the less power uncertainty holds over you. And paradoxically, the freer you become, the more aligned you are with whatever God is preparing next. There is a quiet courage developing in you, the courage to feel deeply without demanding resolution, the courage to stay soft without becoming naive, the courage to trust God even when He does not explain Himself. This courage will serve you long after this season ends. It will shape how you love, how you decide, and how you walk through future uncertainties. When the silence finally breaks, and it will, you will recognize how much you have changed. You will notice that you are no longer desperate for answers, only open to truth. You will find that you are able to receive clarity without losing your center. And even if the outcome differs from what you imagined, you will not collapse. Because your stability will no longer rest on one decision, one person, or one moment, but on the quiet strength God built in you while you waited. You are learning that God's faithfulness is not proven by speed, but by depth. Not by immediacy, but by intention. Not by noise, but by consistency. This season is teaching you to listen beneath the surface. To discern peace rather than chase reassurance. To recognize God's presence even when His answers are delayed. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are not being tested beyond your capacity. You are being trusted with a process that requires maturity, patience, and faith. God would not invite you into this waiting if He did not know you could grow through it. He sees strength in you that you may not yet recognize. He sees resilience forming where you once felt fragile. Continue to show up for your life. Continue to love well. Continue to choose integrity, kindness, and truth, even when no immediate reward appears. These choices matter more than you know. One day, you will look back and realize that this season was not empty. It was full of becoming. Full of refinement. Full of quiet miracles you only recognize in hindsight. Until then, remain open. Remain grounded. Remain faithful in the small, unseen ways. God is still working, still shaping, still preparing hearts, including yours. And when the time is right, what has been forming in silence will step into the light with clarity, purpose, and a peace that could only have been born from waiting.